Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can have quorum.
Yeah, exactly. If Jim wasn't here, we wouldn't have an official meeting, so thank you. for
Thank you.
being here.
No problem.
Introductions are on the agenda, but I'll let you kick it off.
Are we
Jonathan?
ready to go?
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like it's about 1:07, so call to order the meeting of the Mad River Valley Planning District Steering Committee. It's March 19th. Our first order of business tonight is adjustments to the agenda, and I believe we actually have one. We'll be removing item 7A. The bookkeeping update, Ed Reed was not available today, so we're pushing that to our next meeting. But I believe that's the only adjustment. All right, great. So next up is introductions. This is oddly, it's the first meeting of our new year, but our organizational meeting isn't until the next meeting. But we do have at least one new member, so it's probably a good idea to go around and do introductions. I'm Jonathan Ersprung. I'm the representative of the Waitsfield Planning Commission. I'm the very recently ex-chair of the Planning Commission in Waitsfield. As of Tuesday, I am no longer chair, but I am still the designated representative here. I'm the vice chair of our executive committee.
And a new dad.
And a new dad, yes. Actually, 8 weeks ago.
I'm Eric Friedman. I'm the director of the Mad River Valley Chamber.
Jim Westell, I'm the VP of Base Operations at Sugarbush.
Franny Hoag, I am community planner, staff member at the planning district.
And hi, Jim. Hi, Dave. Joshua Schwartz, Executive Director of the Mad River Valley Planning District.
Well, thanks.
David, you want to go before me? So we're not out of sequence?
Dave Babicon, Waitsfield Select.
Chuck Martell, I am the chair of the Basin Select Board and also secretary treasurer of this organization.
Okay, I'm Jim Krabs. I'm your newest member. I'm on the Planning Commission in Warren. And let's see, the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission, Transportation Advisory Committee, and the most important role, fence viewer.
Excellent. And we have a guest.
We do have a guest.
I'm just the peanut guy. I'm just Perry Bigelow, Warren.
Great. Thank you, Perry.
All right. So our next item of business is public comments. And I don't know if you had any comment you wanted to bring to that, or if you just wanted to observe.
Mostly just to observe, I guess, one question, but I don't know if this is the right place. Because housing's popping up in Warren with the garage site. You know, and then Waitsfield had the fairgrounds site, I think. So I haven't heard anything in years about that. So I don't know if there's anything new about that. That might be not the right place here.
I think it's a reasonable question. Absolutely. I don't know if either our Waitsfield Select Board member has anything to say.
I know about the fairgrounds. The Conservation Commission is doing a study that has been paid for by a grant to look at the different uses of the fairground property. And that should be coming in the next couple of months. I'm not sure of the exact timing, but I'll find out and I'll let you know if you'd like to know more.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Our next item of business then is the acceptance of the minutes from the February 19th steering committee meeting, which were available on the website. Are there any questions, comments on those?
No.
Seeing none, we get a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Chuck, thank you. A second?
Sure.
Thanks, Eric. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
All right. Any abstain?
I'm going to abstain. I didn't.
Reasonable.
Back required.
Indeed. And no's, no no's. All right. The minutes are so adopted. Next up is our staff report. So I will turn it over to our staff.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. So I'll start. The lot's been going on and a lot is happening in the near term that we tried to capture in the staff report. One, just starting with what's most of the time that I'm spending is in regards to the Waitsfield wastewater project. So the project design work is continuing, aiming for and looking like we'll have 90% design by the end of this month. That's a very big milestone for the project. It's important because that's the point in which you can send the design plans to the variety of different permitting agencies at the state to get the review and most importantly, their sign off on the project. And in particular, VTrans, Department of Environmental Conservation, ANR, Division of Historic Preservation. There's been conversations with all those permit agencies all along through the project, but it was a 30% design, 60% design, and actually about 80% design drawings a month or so ago was sent to most of them or to all of them, and feedback's been received. So it's not a black box we're walking into. We're excited to hit this threshold, get those approvals, and then that'll allow the project to continue to move forward. So D90, design 90 is the terminology. So project design completion is targeted for this summer. And like I said, that includes the final permitting approvals. So we've done our best through the project to minimize the surprises. And so far all looks good in that regard. There are a handful of design pieces that are still ongoing. Like I said, 90% design. One is there's been outreach happening in approximately 85% or so of the individuals that are signed up as priority parcels have received a site visit by JB Weir on behalf of the project, the Waitsfield Planning Zoning Administrator. But JB's been serving the role of reaching out to property owners, providing an update on the project, sharing sort of what the expectations are as we move forward, and working on some design pieces, specifically going into each property that's indicated that they want to sign on. If there's a building, to the base of the building to identify where the wastewater line pipe is currently going out of the building and measuring that. And that information is important to be included into the design. So not only, so that's elevation, but also location. So as you can imagine, most people's wastewater pipes are in the back of their homes because most of their septic fields are in the back of their properties. And so that is a design consideration where that pipe comes around, and the plan is to hook up at that location of each home, and opening up the opportunity for those who may want to change the pipe from the rear to the front. So JB's been doing that work, and it's been really, really great. Another piece is there are the service area being Historic Waitsville Village and Irisville, with the treatment happening at the Munn site, requires a conveyance pipe as well as the collection from each of these properties. And we have a tree list of the number of trees that are to be impacted by the project. The pipe location is selected in proximity essentially to the road, but not in the road surface. That's a VTrans requirement. So in the right of way, and there are some tree impacts. And so we've gone through the list. Actually, today I had my second session of the second draft of the tree list with Charlie Hosford, who's on the tree board in Waitsfield, and going through that list and identifying, are there some major, like what are the considerations for the trees that are on the list? And it's like 3 pages of trees impacted by the project. A good number of them are on private property and are connected to people's individual connections. So if they want to connect, these are the trees that are in the way, as well as the larger street trees or others that are where the conveyance pipe is. So there's a lot of concern. I think we're being really thoughtful of identifying essentially, are there some major blocks, and if so, are there some design ways to address those. The first draft of the emergency response plan for that project was completed just this past month. And on the funding front, we're seeking congressional discretionary spending from each of our representatives to DC, and have been having meetings with their staff for the last 2 weeks, and submitting applications for CDS funding for construction. And so those are the main updates I wanted to share specifically about the Waitsville project. I did add there is a really wastewater implementation report that was done by the town of Jericho in combination with the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnership. They were essentially Jericho's looking at trying to undertake a wastewater project similar to what we're trying to do, and this report is a summary of work they did last year, which I was involved in identifying strategies for public outreach and ways to move forward community wastewater systems. So they leaned on about 5 different communities that are currently in process, and Waitsville was one of them. So that report was just released recently. On the data front, Franny will talk about the community well-being survey, and it's an agenda item. We'll get to that. I won't talk about that, but I do want to mention about the annual data report. I have printed copies of the annual data report here. We essentially have 2 batches. We have the batch that was done incorrectly by the printer, and then the one that is correct. Essentially, what's incorrect is that the pages, well, this is a correct one, but are printed upside down on the second page. And so the bottom line is we have more copies than we normally have. And we are in the process of dropping them off at each of the towns, but also there's copies available for members of the steering committee. This information is all available on our website, the PDF version of this, but I just want to make sure folks are aware that there's printed copies for each. So feel free to grab one before you leave. And this is actually a mix of the ones that are printed wrong and the ones that are printed correctly. So if you have a preference, you should look closely. But it's great. Folks are utilizing and reading, and we're having conversations with individuals about the data that's in the data report already, and that's fantastic. Do you want to presentations? So 2 things I want to mention, and the data report being a part of it. Fred and I, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, we started getting out of the office. So Freddie started on the 9th of February. So I guess this is 5 weeks and change, nearly 80% through this week. And we just 2 weeks ago finally got out of the office. We've just been really busy and focusing on things, but we're able to visit the Faison town office last Friday. We had a visit with Yes Tomorrow, had lunch over there, and then we had a visit with Sugarbush, and Joel Rhodes gave us a really great conversation and tour and sort of peek into the operations side of Sugarbush. And are intending on a handful of other visits soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, depending on how we can fit it in. So one, when we stop at the other town offices, we'll drop off copies of the data report. Second, Franny's in the process of scheduling with the planning commissions of the 3 towns to provide a presentation on the data report. And that presentation is an opportunity to check in. We're in a new fiscal year, say hello, share the data, introduce Franny, introduce myself to those who don't know me, and hear from the planning commissions about what are they working on and what are the needs. I have a data report, a work plan presentation I'll share in a few moments, but our work is, we intend to be responsive to our town's needs, and this is an opportunity to have that conversation and identify anything and any guidance that we can hear from them on that front. Just because you mentioned the Warren Town Garage site and housing, I was notified this recently that on April 28th, the Warren Select Board is scheduled to have a discussion with Habitat for Humanity to explore the possibility of a housing project at the Old Town Garage site. And I've accepted the offer to participate and provide some housing data as context, and I'm intending on being in touch, and I actually heard from Devin, who is the chair of the Warren Select Board 2 days ago, that they're hoping to have a pre-meeting in advance, and so I'm hoping to be able to participate in that. So really, Sam Robinson, as the community planner, did a fair amount of work or was engaged in that discussion. And with his departure, we're trying to re-engage and try to figure out the best way that we can support the town in that effort. I want to mention under recreation, the Vermont Community Outdoor Recreation Economy Toolkit, also known as Vermont Core Toolkit, which seeks to support communities in collecting outdoor economic impact data and support the communities in building their outdoor recreation economy. If you might remember, I served on the steering committee for that work. And Waitsfield served as a pilot community. And I participated in the kickoff presentation that happened earlier this week. Was it this week or was it last week?
I think it was last Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. The end of last week, but included in the staff report is a link to that actual presentation. So it was great to be able to support and be part of that effort. So those are the main things I wanted to highlight. Happy to answer any questions that are in the staff report, either Franny or I.
I did have one question. You guys sent out, I think it was Franny sent out a email just the other day about, and had something about the LOT and what it was being spent on. Just curious, like nothing in there was about wastewater. Why is that?
So first of all, let me back up a little bit. So Franny put out the first newsletter from the planning district.
Nice job.
Thank you.
And so that was step one. That was yesterday?
Yes, and we had the conversation about including a bit about the wastewater and then ultimately decided.
No, I mean in the financing specifically.
Yeah, so the LOT,
Are you saying there wasn't anything in the email about wastewater specifically, or in the LOT section?
Because I think the most people think, it's like, this is for wastewater. And so it was like listing these things that were going to be covered by it.
I think it's the FY 20.
So, and this was confusing to several Waitsfield voters as well, which luckily we were able to iron out at the meeting.
What an opportunity to explain.
Yeah. So the article that passed directs all the funding inclusion, I don't have it in front of me, but basically funding and debt service and capital reserve funding for municipal capital projects and infrastructure. And then since if all goes well, we haven't heard from the state to confirm because 13 towns passed it, passed one. And the law that allows the LOT says they only have to take 5 a year. But knock on wood that they are realizing the need for everybody. And also we made sure we emailed the minute we knew the results. So hopefully we're good anyway. But if we do start collecting it July 1st as hoped, then we don't have currently huge debt service that, we've been reducing our debt service. So what we put on our town meeting ballot to begin funding these capital reserve funds that will address some of these things. We know we have huge bridge and culvert needs this year and paving. And we want to start funding the emergency fund, the all hazards recovery reserve fund, and the fire department and town garage reserve. So we basically, for this year, 2027, we allocated percentages of this year's funds, but we're not restricted beyond that. It'll come to the voters every year. That's
what I figured it was, but I just.
Yeah.
And I had someone ask me.
Yeah, and I think someone asked us at the meeting, and our funding needs, given the funding stack that's currently in place, will be starting next year probably.
And we actually talked about that as to whether or not we should talk about that in the newsletter, and then it was all this nuance.
Yeah,
and we were trying to keep it brief, and we were like, hey, we didn't want to talk about next year's Waitsfield funding priorities without having, that's a Waitsfield discussion. So we really just stuck to the facts.
Yep. Super helpful. Good question. Thank you.
And one last thing, or maybe we're going to talk about, but about the communications plan.
I can talk about it a little bit. So Josh and I are working on putting together a communications plan for the planning district, just looking to specifically strengthen our outreach, not only to the general public, but to towns specifically. So making sure that the towns stay on top of the work that we're doing and get updates in a timely manner. And I've identified ways for us to sort of share information weekly, monthly, and of course with the data report on a yearly basis. So looking forward to share more about that as we nail out the specifics.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got a
Yeah.
question about that the other day at the planning commission about how do we improve, and I mean, really, it's an indictment of me, but how do we improve the flow of information from these meetings and from what's going on, you know, in your work back to planning commissions, select boards, make sure people are actually aware of what's going on and have that access to ask questions and, you know, get projects addressed as they need to. So, I mean, I think we're doing a great job of getting the work done, but sometimes the communication is the harder part. So yeah, that's great. Really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a particular objective for this particular year, and honestly was part of the frame of the hiring of Franny. So we're really excited, and I think you sent me the draft just the last day or so of that work plan, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I will, and we'll work on it. We're going to work with Eric specifically, who has offered to be a part of that, and then bring it up to the whole steering committee and share. So
all right. Is that
that's it.
That's our staff report. Excellent. So that brings us to new business, and we'll be starting with letter B, which is the work plan update.
Awesome. So that is me. One quick moment. I'm going to go on that screen, but I still want to record it on the Zoom. Second. Share the second screen.
If you share it
Yeah.
via Zoom, it should get recorded.
So I just want to appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our fiscal year 27 work plan. So first and foremost, what is the work plan? The way in which one of the key procedures and processes that we go through every year is to develop a work plan that serves as a guiding document within a particular fiscal year, specifically for staff's activities. The planning district's charge is really broad. If you look at our formation documents, there's a lot that we can work on per those documents. But our work plan is an attempt to balance the needs, opportunities, interests, and pressing concerns, and really try to make the work manageable. So while our charge is broad, there's been times where our work plan has been exceptionally broad. And I will tell you from experience, it's hard to stay on top of all those things. And so there's been other times where we've really narrowed the work plan into essentially one plus the wastewater project the first year. That was the vast majority of my work. And so we really narrowed it during that time. And I think that was some lessons learned that was quite positive to move that project forward by giving it so much concerted effort. But the reality is it's never one or the other. There's somewhere in the middle is where we end up. And it lays out our different topic areas and related tasks. It creates focus. It creates a certain amount of accountability. That being said, we've never really looked at our work plan as something that's entirely strict. Things come up over the year that are outside of the scope of the work plan. We've had, 2011 flooding, pandemic, and other unforeseen things that we have to be open to change. But I think it's really great to go through the process to identify, prioritize, and set out what our objectives are. I also think from a staff perspective, and when I started here, which was in 2008, I remember really putting a lot of effort into the work plan, and I found that my predecessors, I hadn't seen much of much effort in that front, and I sort of played out a scenario in my head where I would be working, maybe I'd be working on a project and be about 9 months in, and then a steering committee member is like, why are you working on that? And I don't want to be in that situation. None of us do. So that's for me, that the work plan provides some clarity on where we're going. So a couple really quick basics. What is the Battle Valley Planning District's fiscal year? Our fiscal year is March 1st to the end of February every year. That's a funky fiscal year. I don't know another organization that has it during those times, but that is ours. And as a result, we've when it comes to the work plan, we have a particular process that was laid out in the MRVPD bylaws, Section 904, that were adopted in 2024. And that is in September of every year, have a progress report on the current work plan. That's 6 months into the year. That's staff saying, hey, so this is what we said we were going to do, and this is where we're at. And these are things that we didn't think about, that are things that we need to consider. And here are things that are on the horizon. And then in October of every year, have a preliminary work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. That usually starts with sharing with the executive committee and having a discussion with the executive committee, and then presenting and discussing with the broader steering committee. And by December, or as soon as possible, finalize the work plan for the upcoming fiscal year for the steering committee approval. So this fiscal year has been approved. It was actually approved in January, as soon as possible. So this isn't new to those that are that were around previously. There's a lot here, and this is really hard to absorb all of those words, and I have pages on each of them. But this is the sort of totality of the work plan. And as you notice, topic-wise, there's a variety of different topics and specific items. Also, this work plan was developed prior to Franny joining the planning district. So now 5+ weeks in, we've recently revisited the work plan to clarify the strategy, details, responsibility, and timing. And those are some of the things that I want to share with you. Also, some items require additional discussion before all the detail can really come into focus. Again, we just started this fiscal year. So heads up that some of these things are evolving. And so, but I want to share where we're at this particular period of time. So this first topic area is infrastructure. I've delineated by using colors and bullets of who is the primary person responsible. This was, talk about tedious. Having different bullets on the same pages is and formatting. So the Waitsfield Wastewater Planning Project coordination. So I've been serving as a project coordinator for a couple of years on the Waitsfield Planning Project. As I said, 90% design by the end of March. Easement and allocation ordinance work is happening now. I didn't mention that before, but it is. And working with the select board upcoming. Final permitting in late spring, bidding in June with anticipation for construction in the fall, maybe even earlier than fall. A lot of my work is about communication and outreach, as well as Taskmaster, staying on top of all the different threads, as well as focusing on construction funding. So those are that's a little bit of like where the project is, what some of the work is, and a little bit about timing. It's been the expectation. So as I alluded to before, there was a year where this was the work for me. And there was a particular request and an agreement with Waitsfield that established the concentration of time. And this has not been a small project. It's been a big project, but as the project moves out of planning and into implementation, the anticipation is that I'll be slowly stepping out of the driver's seat of the project. As I'm showing here, I see it moving really towards implementation the latter half of this year. But there are also a fair number of threads that are out there. So I anticipate this full year working on this project. And then we can revisit when we get to the 6-month mark and see where we're at and what the horizon looks like. The second item was support municipal town garage efforts. So in particular, the Warren Old Town Garage site, as I shared in the staff update. To be honest, I'm looking forward to these meetings to understand the status and understand what role we can play in support of the town. In Waitsfield, I'm not aware of a particular need at this time, but leave that door open for.
We're well into, or in the middle of design with Brent Loaf and our preliminary design. Looking good.
Great. And feel free to stop me at any point if there's any questions about these items. So on the data front, so these are denoted with Franny, which is the orange arrow. Developed the 2026 Matter Valley Data Report, which is earmarked for the summer and fall time period. Conduct the Matter Valley Wellbeing Survey, looking at spring and summer of this year. And more detail of that as the next agenda item. Update the Matter Valley Community Dashboard. That's both, there's work for the 2025 data, so this data report, and I didn't mention it was printed in, actually, I think it was a couple days after Christmas, so really released in 2026, or made available in 2026, but updating that data into the community dashboard, as well as updating the 2026 data once the data report and the well-being survey work is done in the fall. Additional what is presenting the 2025 data report to PCs and others, as I mentioned before. That wasn't something that we had in this upcoming work plan because we anticipated that was going to be done in the previous fiscal year, but with the staff turnover, this is where we're at. Housing, so for the both of us, support Warren short-term rental data project. So I'm looking forward to meet with Warren staff and new should be select board, steering committee reps to discuss what this role is. I know that Jim in particular has been involved in this project, and Dan previously had been playing a key role, and I had Devin Coleman, as I mentioned before, the chair of the Warren Select Board, and part of the conversation I had with her a couple of weeks ago was a request to meet to discuss where they are at and how we might be able to help. So looking forward to that discussion. Waitsfield short-term rental exploration. So far the role has been sharing information to the planning commission through the zoning administrator, as well as discussing future roles when we visit with the PC. Transportation, the Sugarbush Access Road Shared Use Path. That project is many years in the making, but it is currently in the design and construction phase, awaiting its NEPA clearance, and anticipating that in August, and anticipate reconvening the team in late August. So the design and construction work was essentially held up for a year for the NEPA review. There was some of that clearance has been delayed by a bridge that was flagged as potentially eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So the engineer lead on the project's been working with the Department of Historic Preservation awaiting final clearance. So that's a consideration that's being addressed. The Matador bus service transition. Did we stop moving?
We're also still.
Which one is?
Yeah, that's power. Yeah, that's it too.
Possible.
Anything else?
No.
Just this room wants down. Or not entirely.
Yeah, this is really weird. I don't know.
Well, obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we lost the lights only.
Josh, where is that
Probably is. Oh.
I don't know.
Just keep walking around.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what?
We just got
Could you
email
turn
this
that,
afternoon that mentioned
That
that.
corner there, that might be what it is.
Oh,
It looks like a
Oh.
motion sensor. Oh, you can tilt it down.
yeah, tilt it down so I can.
It's that white thing.
The white thing?
Yeah. I don't know if that's it, but I'm guessing it is.
Well,
Do you think somebody moves to the side so they can move around here without the lights going on?
Maybe. The other one is, there's another one over there that's also tilted. I wonder if someone was up to no good.
Because they didn't want to get busted eating the candy.
That's what it was, yeah. That's weird. I've never seen that happen here before.
Same. So the MAD bus, the Matter Valley Bus Service, has been run by Green Mountain Transit for 20 or so years. And the MAD bus service, as well as all the rural service that's currently managed by Green Mountain Transit, is transitioning to Tri-Valley Transit. And I just have been in communication with Green Mountain Transit and learned that they have a Tri-Valley Transit employee who is their community relations manager, just moved into the Green Mountain Transit office this past week. And that's that's my point of contact to work with on this transition. So anticipate starting those discussions in April, but starting July 1st, Tri-Valley Transit will be the manager of the service here, as well as all of Green Mountain Transit's existing rural transit service. So the Green Mountain Transit has an office dedicated in Berlin, and most of those staff are dedicated to the rural service. Those staff members will become Tri-Valley Transit employees. And so the merger of those offices and that work is just starting to begin. So I'm looking forward to being part of those conversations. I really think that will require strong presence in the discussion. There are some existing challenges when it comes to funding of the bus, which I bet Jim would be more than happy to talk about if anybody would like to learn more, because Sugarbush has been footing the vast majority, almost all of the local match, nearly all the match, and a big price increase in the last year. Some more Vermont 100 traffic calming in Warren. I plan on talking to a select board member and Warren select board member once that individual has been appointed. There's not yet been an appointment on the select board member from Warren. And Kaylee Whitehouse, that was a particular item that she had requested to be on the work plan. So I look forward to getting more detail on that soon. Conservation. So Friends of the Mad River collaboration, response, rebuild, and resilience effort. So Friends of the Mad River applied for and received a grant to undertake a community engagement, history, and next steps. Really building off of the 15th anniversary of Tropical Storm Irene, and identifying and reconnecting so that we don't lose the knowledge and understanding of the impact of Tropical Storm Irene, talk about the changes that we've made as a community since then, identify the opportunities that are still out there, and do a bit of organizing and engagement on those next steps. So anticipating a 15th anniversary event at the end of August to kick off that work. But we had our very first meeting on the 16th earlier this week with Friends of Mad River on that. So more to come. Community Recreation Visioning 2.0, administering quarterly meetings. That's Franny, and Franny had her first meeting just recently on the CRV, and that work is moving forward. Rural Resources, coordinate the Matter Valley Rural Resource Commission, which generally that work is regular meetings, project identification, and CLG grant program. The Rural Resource Commission is the Matter Valley's community local government entity, known as a CLG, which is an entity developed and recognized by the Department of the Interior as a way for communities to focus on the rural resources. Everything from National Register Historic Places, nomination forms, and work that focuses on identifying the history of a place within the Department of Interior structure, are usually run through a Rural Resource Commission. Our Rural Resource, or a CLG. Ours is called the Matter Valley Rural Resource Commission. There's 21 CLGs in the state. All 20 other ones are town specific, so they're a town CLG. Ours, because we're in the Matter Valley, we do things differently, is a 3-town and planning district serves as staff. That group has been a little bit quiet in the last year or so, and we're having some initial conversations about what that work will be, and what the focus will be. But it is our responsibility to keep that group alive, based on the previous agreements with the Department of Interior.
Where can I go to, who's on that commission?
So the three current representatives to the CLG, the Matter Valley Rural Resource Commission, I use that interchangeably. Ellen Strauss has been a long-term representative, and she's been on the Rural Resource Commission since before I started, and that was 18 years ago. Larissa Ersprung, Jonathan's wife, is also a member of the Rural Resource Commission, and Brad Long. There you go. Brad Long and Faiston. And so those are the three active current members of the Rural Resource Commission.
And they're appointed, or how is it?
Yeah,
defined?
so they are appointed actually by the Matter Valley Plain District Steering Committee.
Okay.
But I want to take that group hasn't been very active in the last year or so, and it's really been active when there have been projects, and staff essentially has been involved in other things. And so projects haven't been happening because we haven't been driving them. And so with Franny coming on board, we are really sort of taking a beat to look at the Rural Resource Commission, want to re-engage with that group and also identify some projects and figure out how we move forward.
On the website, just because I have the same questions. And so Kathy has stepped down.
I don't know.
Okay.
She stepped down from another
Yes,
position.
she did.
And so I honestly am.
Okay.
She might have communicated with Sam as her status, and that's part of the take a beat. We need to.
Yeah.
And then can you both do the website, or can you guys do the website? Just to replace contact Sam with contact Franny.
Oh, yeah, is there?
Under the Rural Resource Commission.
Okay.
And then I was just reading the thing that says maintain an inventory of local historic properties. And I was just wondering if that exists anywhere.
Yeah, so that primarily is in the form of the National Register of Historic Places. So generally the way that the CLG program works, there is funding every year. In this year, it's $80,000 in funding available to CLGs, so they can apply for that funding. It's a 60-40 split, so it does require a 40% match, which I have found to be quite challenging many years, even though you can use in kind, to do really a variety of things. So those are inventories, inventorying historic properties. It could be education projects, educating the community about the historic value of a place. The Matter Valley has Waitsville, Warren, and Faison have 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to say 5 historic districts.
I remember one too.
And individual property nominations. The Matter River Glen was added to the National Register of Historic Places approximately 12 or 13 years ago. That was a project of the Rural Resource Commission. So we applied for, there was a longstanding interest in Matter River Glen being on the National Register. The way in which that happened is that the Matter Valley Rural Resource Commission applied for a grant through this CLG grant program, so $80,000, was awarded that grant, used that grant to hire a historic preservation consultant who put together essentially the history in the form of a nomination form. And then that nomination form ended up being approved by the Department of Interior and then added, and it was the first ski area in the country to be on the National Register of Historic Places. There are other ski areas that have components on the National Register, but it's the first ski area itself. And so that's kind of that's one role that the Rural Resource Commission can and has played. Another recent project is the Boys Hill in Faiston. And for Boys Hill, when the town took ownership 5-7 years ago or so, the town endeavored to undertake a management plan. And one of the pieces that was sort of left unknown was, what is the history of this place? And so we applied for and received a grant and then hired a historic preservation consultant who did the research work and put together a report of the history of Boys Hill Town Forest. And it was more than just a report. There were also field visits, a video, and information and copy for a future kiosk that's focused specifically on the history there. So those are some examples of what the Rural Resource Commission has done in the past. To be completely frank, I mean, I think those projects happen when planning district prioritizes them. They don't really come from the membership as much. The membership is there to support. I mean, uh, Brad Long actually was the one who suggested the project to face, and so shame on me. But the planning district staff are the ones who are driving that project. Everything from the administrative side to sort of moving those things forward. So. So balancing Rural Resource Commission commitment and projects with all the other things. Last year, it didn't happen so well. So like I said, we're gonna put our heads together, figure out where to go from here. Sugarbush provide project review and guidance on Sugarbush projects. That's an item that's always on here from year to year, and making sure that we are made available. I'm quite aware of Sugarbush's pipeline, thanks to the conversation that we had with Joel recently. Through that conversation with Joel, so one of the ways in which the planning district has been involved in part of the origin of the planning district, if we read the MOU, is in regards to Act 250. And in talking to Joel, I came to realize that somewhere along the line, the planning district is no longer getting notifications of Act 250 applications from Sugarbush. And that has not to do with Sugarbush, but it has to do with Act 250. And so I recently reached out to Act 250. Did I CC you on that? And reached out to the district coordinator to say, hey, we're here. By the way, so one of our roles is to be involved in these projects based on our origin documents. What's up? So I'm trying to figure out what's happening there. Not that I don't have any fear of not gaining information, but because if I call Sugarbush, we'll get it. But being on the distribution of projects, I think, is important.
As long as it doesn't slow down the process.
And the planning district can provide letters of support for projects. And so, there's a variety of different roles that we can play, and we can be additive and supportive, for which we have in the past. We might have also made things slower in the past.
No, you. Yeah, I don't think people responding to.
Yeah. Municipal support, zoning administrator meetings and support. One way in which that happens is quarterly meetings and essentially quarterly lunch, which are April 2nd, is on the schedule, which is really great. The first one of this year, but also just that bringing the three zoning administrators together on a regular basis and being a host for that, I think we've always heard is a really positive, great thing. There are folks that are working really hard and many times kind of in their own silos, and it provides an opportunity to sort of share and build more relationship and understanding between each other, as well as the planning district staff being able to hear directly from ZAs of what they're challenged with. And we also have other communications with the ZAs outside of that. We have as an objective this year, understanding that we are 40 plus years in as an organization. And in the past, we've had a tri-town leadership meeting or a 3-town select board meeting. It's had a few different forms, and we haven't had one essentially since COVID. And so looking at having some version of a gathering / recognition of our organization's work over time. And don't have a particular strategy for that yet. And I think it also connects with the communication strategy work, specifically the 40th anniversary, about open to suggestions, or if anyone has a burning desire or interest to be a part of that, we are all ears. But having a gathering of at least the elected officials from the individual towns later this year. And then organizational, everything from administration, which is primarily on my shoulders, communication outreach, as we mentioned already, updating personnel policies. That is something that's been on the docket for a while. I worked on a draft. Dan, that I provided it to Dan a couple of months ago, and Dan said that he was dedicated to working on that draft, even if he wasn't on the planning district steering committee here through the spring. So that's great, but getting that work done this fiscal year is another objective. So this puts us to where we are this year. So that's the same list from the very beginning, except for the fact I have the color coded and stylized bullets that can sort of show the how the different tasks are being held by different staff members. So any questions? This was mostly just we're in a new year. Let's start off on a good foot and know where we're at. Any burning questions anyone may have?
Yeah, what are you gonna do to stay busy?
Not write another presentation on my work plan. Move on implementing the work plan.
Another busy year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot. And there's always things that we can't foresee. So
I do have a just logistical question that just brought it up for me, which is we have these zoning administrator meetings. Is there a reason that we don't engage with town administrators? Same sort of, I mean, I know there's obviously a lot to do, and so I don't
Yeah.
want to propose more work, but I'm curious if there's if there's a structural,
No,
reason we don't do that, or if there's just
no, there isn't a structural reason why. I think that that's a really good idea.
might be something to think about.
Yeah.
I don't want to add more to the list we already have, but
Well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I think it's time really well spent. I mean, when I think about what is the role of the planning district, one of the roles that we can play is, and one of the important pieces is sharing information and bringing together our three towns. There are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of work going on, but a lot comes from building relationships. And so enhancing and building those relationships for, because I had a conversation with you yesterday and the day before, I talked to Rebecca and Warren, who's the town administrator, and I was like, oh, you guys need to talk about this thing. And so, yeah, having a space for that would be really great.
just to think about it, if there's a way to naturally,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like we could be an easy facilitator of them all
yeah.
getting together, whereas like I know you talk to York sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
he's in my office quite often.
Yeah.
Our office. Yes. Excellent. Anything else?
Or just, sorry, just because we're in
No
this
problem.
building and I know you're in the White House. Is there any onus on you both to participate in the General White House Committee?
Yes.
That might work its way into the plan at some point, just to show that you're doing it as well.
Yeah.
That is something.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, the General White House Committee or Commission, or which it is, but anyway, the select board in Waitsfield, so the General White House is owned by the town of Waitsfield. In order to facilitate management, the select board a year and a half ago put together, I believe it's a commission or committee, and appointed individuals to that, including a rotating seat of each of the tenants. And essentially, there's 4 tenants outside of the Historical Society. So the Historical Society has its own seat, and then the other tenants, the 4 of us rotate. So essentially 1 per quarter, or sorry, yeah. 1/3 of the time, we end up being there. So that is one of the things. There's another piece that I didn't mention that I do want to highlight, which is an opportunity this particular year, is about an internship. So the Play District, we've had interns at different points, variety. Actually never paid by the planning district, so we've never paid for an intern, but we've benefited from interns that have been both paid and unpaid. Sometimes schools will provide a stipend for an individual to be able to have an internship. Lillian Cadwell, who grew up in Waitsfield and is, I think in her junior year, maybe junior year in college in British Columbia, who has we're focusing a degree in geography, reached out to me a couple months ago and had a conversation, and she'll be here this summer, and asked about an internship. And I said, absolutely, because she's would love to have her on the team. I did say that we don't have any money. So we'll get a ton of hours from her, but because she'll be balancing a paying gig. But I'm looking forward, and Franny and I have just sort of having a conversation about what that work will be and how it will entail. I also recognize that having interns, is never like, there's been times as a steering committee, we've talked about, oh my goodness, the work plan's so much. How can we get more staff? And interns are identified as an additional staff. I don't see interns as an additional staff. At best, we break even. But I think it is a great way to have additional perspective and having more energy. And I think it's also fun to mentor and to be able to share the work that we're doing and the value with somebody who's interested in it. So I see it as a mutually beneficial opportunity, but I don't necessarily see it as a way to get more staff hours. But being realistic.
It's a good opportunity for PR too, frankly. I mean,
Yeah.
every time, I mean, not just for us, but every time we have interns in the Valley, there's a Valley Reporter story on it, which is great. I mean, it really does highlight like what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think it gets people excited.
Yeah. Great. Do I have your presentation?
Yes, they know.
Okay, great.
So that was the completion of the work plan section.
Yep.
All right, then we'll move on to discussing the 2026 well-being survey. And I'm just going to pause for a second and just clarify something for myself. So, and just for logistically for everyone, our fiscal year right now is 2027. Yes.
2026.
So we are in the 2027 fiscal year.
Yeah, because it ends in March of 27.
Correct.
But the projects, the reports we are preparing this year will be the 2026 reports.
So, maybe.
Assuming that they're published.
What reports, David?
Like the data report and the
Yeah.
well-being survey.
Yeah, so usually what we've done is that we've labeled our reports the year for which we're releasing that info.
Yeah.
The 2025 annual data report was anticipated to be completed in 2025 to be printed, and we ran into printer issues that ran it back.
But it was the study that we conducted calendar year.
Calendar year 2025. So we could say fiscal year, but the plaintiff's fiscal year being so weird.
I think for public facing documents, it makes more sense. I just wanted to make sure I had my head around it right. So,
Yeah, I think the public would be confused if it didn't say 2026.
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, if it's in fiscal year 27 annual data report, they'd be like, I don't know what that is. There's an intended use plan that's released by DEC every year, and it says like state fiscal year, federal fiscal year, and they're different numbers. And every time I'm like, that shouldn't be so hard to understand, but it is a stumbling block.
So
So
if you don't want to say fiscal year 27 data report covering 2025 with the latest data from 2024.
or the latest data for 2023. Right, exactly. Yeah. I have a lot of emails from you.
I know, sorry, I think
There it is. Assuming it wants to download, which my computer's been having a hard time with that. You want to just run it off yours?
that's easiest.
It starts downloading here. So
What's no, that's next week.
You might be able to do it at Google.
actually, I have it here. Hold on a second. I'm done here. So. Where did you keep it? With documents? Data.
I don't know that it's,
Oh. Right. Because you didn't. Did you save it?
I certainly can.
Oh. There it is.
Okay.
It downloads. I've been having download issues recently. That's a little bit frustrating.
So Jim, you've been on the.
If I can get to a place where I can just come pick up.
Just about a year and a half now.
Okay.
Not a long time.
Yeah, share.
Yeah,
this
we had like
page.
replated.
Like Jim Sanford and Dan Radack.
But
He's living there.
Jim's just stepping down after 25 years.
Oh my God. Jim has been there. Yeah.
Built them, 74.
Yeah. Jim was on the steering committee when I started and for a long time.
And that was my first time at the steering committee. When I was planning commission for Facein, Jim was on the Warren,
Yeah,
and we were all part of this group.
yeah, 25
We
years,
hired you.
for better or worse.
Good job.
Still
Yeah.
here.
All right, switching gears to the community well-being survey. I'm going to give a little bit of background, share my timeline, hopeful timeline, and also share some information about how I am planning to market the survey to our community. Special thanks to Eric for brainstorming with us. So history of well-being survey. This is the fourth iteration of the survey. We first did it in 2021 with the intent to do it annually, but after 2022, we kind of reviewed the data, and I believe it was the steering committee's decision to move to a bi-yearly administration of the survey. It gets at sort of what's in the title, community well-being, so looking at life satisfaction, physical health, mental health. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on everything that it covers in a moment, but the real purpose of the well-being survey is to add kind of a qualitative aspect to our data report. So get into things beyond the numbers that quantifies and looking at like I said, community well-being, mental health, those types of metrics throughout our community. And the well-being survey was birthed from the Community Indicator Project, which is something that community planner Katie Gallagher worked on back in 2021. Looking at different indicators in our community, so different, more or less how we're doing as a community. The dashboard, which Josh mentioned earlier, is something that I'm working to update right now. Kind of displays information from both our data report and the well-being survey on our website. It's a really cool interactive tool. I'm, like I said, working my way through that right now, so I'll have to update the housing data, but I've made a fair bit of progress there, which I'm really happy about. And again, what's the point of this survey? Is to track progress towards our vision statement and to strengthen community dialogue. So it really gives our community a way to speak directly to the planning district and share how they're feeling about living here, which I think is really cool. So how does the well-being survey compare to the data report? Both relate to our vision statement and give us sort of benchmark points for determining where we are as a community. I'm sure many of you are familiar with our vision statement, and this is not our vision statement in its entirety, sort of just the umbrella for it. It's much longer than this, but the Mad River Valley is an innovative, vibrant, connected, and caring community, honoring its past, celebrating its landscape, and actively pursuing its potential. And so the data report quantifies things like population, social services, housing, tourism and hospitality, industries and employment, traffic, transit, emergency services, crime, everything that we covered in our last steering committee meeting when I reviewed the 2025 data. Whereas the well-being survey, rather than looking at hard numbers, explores the quality of things like life satisfaction, psychological and physical health, work life, material well-being kind of got swung around there, but know that that's supposed to say material well-being, social connectedness, community vitality. And there's actually 3 open-ended questions at the bottom of the survey where survey participants are invited to comment on their perceived strengths of living in the Valley. What are the best things of living in the Mad River Valley? What are some of the challenges or hardships of living here? And what are some of the big picture changes that they'd like to see in the next 20 years? And I'm, for those of you who don't know, I have a master's degree and I did qualitative research. So having something that qualitative, really looking at the direct responses from people particularly excites me. And I would be really excited to manipulate some of the data that we've already collected and go into a little bit more detail looking at change to those responses over time. That's just something that gets me really excited, and I wanted to share it with you all. So I kind of got at this already, but just to really lay it out here, the purpose of the survey is to assess how the Valley is doing kind of on an individual personal level. It gives us a way to hear directly from the people, and like I said, the more qualitative side of things versus the data report. It also can serve as a guiding light for our communications. So restructuring our communications plan or kind of developing a robust communications plan is a goal of Josh's and mine, as we've talked about at length already. And knowing what the community cares about specifically and what they want to see change in the future can really guide how we frame our communications. And again, we have 4 years, or once we complete this survey, we'll have 4 years of data. So we can really take a look at how things have changed in the past 6 years, where our strengths lie, weaknesses lie, and what big picture changes people are still talking about, and if those changes have changed in the past 5 or 6 years. One thing, you can see the size of this. It's a pretty dense report. The first 26 pages kind of give you the rundown and synthesize the information, whereas the back of this report kind of gives you the more detailed, all of the data. So everything is in here, but I can see this being really intimidating for a town to feel like, oh man, another big report to read all the way through. And so I think condensing some of this information into short reports specifically for towns could be really helpful. Just so you have an idea of what the survey looks like, here's a couple of the questions that we ask. Just to be upfront, it is a little bit of a longer survey. It's about 5 pages front and back, but we generally ask people to rate how they're feeling on a scale of 1 to 5. You can see our open-ended questions kind of down in this corner over here. People are able to rank strongly disagree to agree, so that's another way, but generally you have 5 options per question, and that's a way of quantifying the qualitative information so we can analyze it numerically. And so what does those results look like? Here are the domain mean scores for each of the areas that the well-being study seeks to explore. Dark blue represents the 2021 answers. The orangey shade represents 2022, and the yellow represents 2024. And you can see across the board on a scale of 0 to 5, we're doing pretty well as Valley. We're ranking highest in physical environment and social connectedness. I don't think that'll come as a shock to anybody, but you can see in the time balance columns and governance, work life, those are maybe not as high as some of the other categories. And so I think with another year of data, it'll be really interesting to see where those or how those numbers are changing. And I'm really looking forward to administering the survey this round for that reason. So just to give a little bit more context and break it down a little bit more, here are the scores per topic, topics in that yellow bar, and then it goes 2021, 2022, and then mean scores for 2024. That bar all the way to the right kind of shows you the red shows where maybe we've decreased over time, we being the Valley, the green showing increases in well-being, with the most notable increase in 2024 being satisfaction with life, most noticeable decrease in 2024 being material well-being. So that's kind of material well-being is looking at people's finances. A little bit more context. Vermont actually administered a statewide study in 2021 called the Vermont Happiness Study that follows a similar methodology and asks a lot of similar questions. And so comparing the Mad River Valley to Vermont, we're doing really, really well, especially in social connectedness. You can see in that right-hand bar, that really, really bright green table cell. We're doing really well, particularly in social connectedness. I think that's really wonderful. And interestingly, where we're not doing so well is material well-being. So again, how people are feeling their finances. I think 2026, it'll be really interesting to particularly look at those 2 metrics. So you might be wondering, of course, our goal is to administer the survey broadly, but of course, this survey is more popular with certain groups of people than others. It's particularly popular with women. In fact, 60% of our respondents are women. It's a touchy-feely thing. I can't say I was shocked to see that, but it would be really wonderful to get more men to fill out the survey. And we've been kind of brainstorming as how we might do that. Again, 60%, we know that the valley is getting older, and so 60% of our survey respondents are in that 50 to 80 range. It would be great, maybe with the help of a younger intern, to get some of those other age brackets, higher participation there. And I also think it's important to note that I think 50% have an income of 100,000 or more. So it'd be really great to get some lower income groups. And we've been talking about ways how we might inspire those people to participate in the survey, whether it be doing a partnership with the Food Shelf or maybe partnering with the Interfaith Council. But that is certainly something that we're looking to do this time around.
Thanks. Have you thought of partnering with private business? I mean, ask Sugar Bush or Roots Builders or somebody like that, hey, can you 30 people take the survey for us? I mean, versus go to each business independently and ask them, can we get a couple of your people to take the survey?
I think that's a really great idea. One way that we connect with businesses is asking some of the smaller businesses in the area to donate a gift card of sorts so that we can raffle off gift cards to survey participants, just as a way to increase participation. But we hadn't actually discussed going to businesses for survey administration. I think that's a really great idea, and especially looking to get at some of these less represented groups.
That's where they are.
Yeah, especially, Sugar Bush and Roots Builders. It's a great place to start.
Yeah, the other thing that comes to mind for that is the schools.
The school.
Where we can get engagement, you know.
Yeah, I would put it in all the school newsletters.
It's a great idea.
I can put in touch with Waitsfield always, but I'll just the person at the desk who sends it out. Really helpful. They have like a community stuff right at the bottom, and then I think there's some groups like the softball league could send that out to our members, which have a pretty good cross section of people, and I guess physically active. So, but Spirit League, so it's not that.
Yeah, that would be great.
And some other groups, which might be good.
Absolutely. I know the softball league was something that Eric and I had brainstormed trying to get at guys specifically.
Yeah.
But if anybody else has ideas, I'm all ears. But I really appreciate those pointers, definitely.
Well, if you might go back one, and so one thing that has happened with the previous iterations is that while so the demographic information on the left-hand side, because this is being administered digitally, we can actually keep track of that information while it's happening. And so we've taken a couple times when it's been administered so now we're 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in, and we're looking at where we are and have been trying to adjust the strategy of outreach while it's being administered to groups in order to try to fill in the low points. So that has been something we've done in addition to strategizing at the beginning, but also being responsive along the way.
What age are you starting collecting data at? Sorry.
I don't know that we have a lower age limit, though obviously looking at this, you can tell that we haven't been super successful at getting people under 17. But I was thinking about that actually last night. At what age would it be appropriate to ask this of somebody? And I think my instinct is like, I don't know, 6th grade. I think I remember filling out something like this. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, you could have it be a project where you have the 6th graders fill it out, and then you go to Harwood and have them do it, or figure out a way at least to make them aware of it, and that might get your numbers up a little bit.
That's a great point. So moving along to timeline, might be a little ambitious considering that we're towards the end of March now, but I'm hoping to administer this in May and June, kind of towards the end of May, early June. That's a little bit later than we've typically done it, but with me starting in February, I think that's what we can manage. So right now, as I've mentioned, and as Josh mentioned, I'm working on updating the dashboard, scheduling presentations to towns where I will add a piece about the well-being survey and sort of offer any support to towns in administering it, whether that be printed surveys or more detail, whatever that looks like, I'm happy to do it. Also marketing surveys to business partners, whether it be those who want to administer it to their employees or like I said, giving us or donating gift cards as an incentive for community participation. In April, I'm hoping to do a press release for the Valley Reporter, really ramp up communication efforts, whether it be on social media, again, working to get the business community on board. I want to send a postcard out, or I'd like to. It's going to be rather expensive if we decide to go down that road, and that's coming up in a future slide. But I think a postcard to everybody in the town with the town list could be a really effective way of getting or boosting our participation. I think running some social media ads targeted to the Mad River Valley could also be quite effective. Front Page Forum, it's likely that you'll hear from me asking you to make a post on Front Porch Forum to your respective towns. I would really appreciate that support on something like this. And I certainly plan on tabling at local businesses to get people on the fly as they're walking into my Hurons, maybe at Green Up Day, depending on how soon we can get this going, or local events in the Valley. June, I'd like to do a thank you effort. Thanks for participating. Some direction when I'll have results out. And then in November, sort of coinciding with the release of the data report, I'm hoping to have something much like this to present to you, to the towns, and to the survey participants.
Do we have access to the farmer's market again this time eventually? I know Sam Manda tabled it previous.
It's not something I've explored yet, but I would certainly be willing to do it. And I think it would be a really effective way of getting in front of people.
Yeah, I think it was helpful. I don't know. I don't know if we have numbers on exactly how much engagement that drove, but I think it was good to have someone there.
I mean, and roundup as well,
Definitely.
which is gonna be happening on the green.
It will.
Believe.
Great.
That's the point, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Sam on his own started baking cookies. And that, and I'm not putting that on Franny. She has her own.
I'll bake a cookie. I'll bake a cookie.
She's gonna do whatever needs to be done. I'm not.
Good job. Somebody's gotta do it.
But creative ways to engage with people, I think, is key.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, everyone's insight is helpful.
And so just a snapshot, I know the past couple of slides have been kind of wordy, but I wanted to let you all know kind of what I'm thinking of doing for a communications plan for the survey. Like I said, I think Meta or Facebook, Instagram advertisements, it doesn't need to be that much money, but I think that much money would ensure efficacy targeted to our area, inviting people to participate in the survey. I think we should release it on the day that the survey is open to the public and just continue it for the month. I reached out to Minuteman Press. They have offices in Montpelier and Colchester for a quote on postcards. They'll print the postcards for just under $1,000, and then they'll let us use their permit for postage. So the postage is the expensive piece, but it should come out to a little under $2,000. That's pretty pricey, but it does sort of ensure that we get a pretty broad reach and get this in front of a lot of people. But again, it's a pretty serious monetary commitment for something like this. I mentioned I'd like to do a series of press releases for the Valley Reporter. Ideally, I'd like to do a kickoff or announcement in April, kind of a progress. Don't forget to fill out the survey in May, and then sort of a resulty, here's what we found out in November. Of course, I'd like to do some social media posts, both announcing the survey, some progress, and then results. Our newsletter, I think it could be effective to distribute some table tents, either at local businesses or maybe window magnets with a QR code that people can scan as they're shopping around town. Printed surveys, either at town offices or businesses, if businesses are willing to hand those out. And I'm more than happy to develop a social media toolkit for any business that would like to share this work on social media or for the chamber. And if we want to go down the road of advertisements in the VR, I have those numbers up there as well. It looks like they typically do 3-week or 6-week contracts, but if we decide to go with those types of ads, I will ask Lisa if she's open to doing 3 weeks, just to save some money. And so if we end up going with postcards, we're looking at over 3,000. If we really go crazy on the advertising, $4,000 investment. We don't have postcards, it's relatively inexpensive, under 1,000.
And these are the smallest postcard, right?
Yeah.
So just talk to York, find out who Waitsfield used. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did a town meeting postcard.
Okay,
And it was a larger one. I can't remember the exact cost, but just to double check.
definitely.
Get another quote maybe.
Yeah,
Because I think it was under $1,000 for Waitsfield
okay,
for a bigger postcard, which added significantly to the cost. So,
right.
but it might be close.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the 310.
We budgeted for this and this year's budget, right?
I
No,
believe so.
We did not. No. So where are we anticipating that money from?
I was anticipating have Ed give us a presentation about where we are with the budget, and
Yeah.
then we were gonna talk about this.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Okay. All right.
No, so we'll revisit this at any point.
Okay, cool.
The
We're
financial
only
side.
like 3 weeks into the fiscal year, so you can't be that far off, right?
Right, well, we have a different type of business than you run, Jim.
Right.
We have carryover from the previous year. And understanding where that carryover is, and then have a discussion about that.
Okay.
So where is this data used and how is it used once it's collected?
So this.
Other than this report?
Yeah, so in the report, in the dashboard, but also the intention with this data and the information that it's providing is being used by our select boards, by the planning district when we're having discussions about big picture things. Like what are the issues that are I think it's one specifically reading the long form answers here, and then it's about summarizing them. But it is the single most impactful sort of community voice of anything that I've ever seen in the valley.
I guess just for a concrete example, the Irisville master plan that Waitsfield's planning commission just ran, our consultant used that heavily in terms of sort of identifying community concerns and trying to direct the questions we were asking in the master planning process. We drew a lot from those, particularly the freeform answers, for directed questions about what the community was interested in and whether the support was as widespread as this report made it look, in the context of a plan itself. So we certainly found value in it from the planning commission perspective.
Yeah, we see a lot of value in it too from this, and that we have links to both the data information, the data report, as well as the well-being survey on our relocation guide, which actually gets a fair amount of traffic. And people are really impressed with that, like when they're kind of surprised by the well-being survey.
I will say, with some of these free-form answers, the number one strength that is listed in this report is community. And I did a sort of more in-depth analysis. It's very preliminary and not perhaps the most scientific, but I believe 107 people commented on the caring people of this community as a strength, which I think 107 people out of a total of 578 respondents, that's pretty significant to comment on something that like the caring quality of the people. To me, that's really meaningful. And I understand that it's a little mushy, but I definitely think that there's
Half of
value.
them even specifically mentioned Jim.
They did.
But how nice you would said it.
So is 600 a good sample out of 5,000 people?
It's a sample that we've had so far, and I'm hoping if we have carryover money from last year, we could do something like a postcard and really get out in front of everybody, that there would be more. And I think other years, maybe the first couple, it was closer to 400 and then 500, and we've just gotten close to 600 now.
Yeah, I mean, in political polls, like of a state, when they do, 800 plus people, get that margin of error down to under like 4%. That's considered pretty good.
Well, your demographic is well represented in that number, right? It's, what was it, 60 to 80 female, makes more than they're well represented. The trick is you got to go get the guys that are banging nails and stuff like that. And the only way I think you're gonna do that is at the site.
Right.
And really not even at the building office. I mean, you're gonna have to go, it's lunch break, okay. I got my little scanner here. come help me, free cookies and a sandwich or
I'd be
something
happy
like
to go to
that.
some job sites,
I have a-
absolutely.
Question, as we kind of step up outreach potentially, do we know, or is there a way to know how many people who took it this year took it in 2024? Like, do we have unique identifiers, or obviously we don't want to like
I don't believe we
privacy or anything like that?
have anything like that, but I wonder if it would be helpful to have something like that in the
It
future.
might be interesting to set that up this year, like if it's just people using the same email addresses, or
Just after
Like that.
you've taken the survey before.
you can do that.
That's
too.
great.
You can do that, yeah.
That's a good-
That's a non.
I would rather do that. than-
I feel more comfortable with that approach.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, the other one,
you have done a
that's-
survey.
Especially if we don't have an age limit, we don't want to get responses from under 13s and not have,
That's
and have their names and information and not have.
No, I,
place.
if we were to do something like that, it would be anonymized, and it'd be
Yeah.
like, this email address took it before,
Yeah,
something like that, and not more than that,
I
but
think so.
just a checkbox is fine with me.
Yeah,
And so lastly, one of the things that we've explored, first of all, this is a draft of a postcard that if we decide to go the postcard route, this is what I'm thinking of sending. But changing the name, Mad River Valley Community Wellbeing Survey is a mouthful. And so shortening it with something like checking in, that's very easy to remember. I think it looks nice on a piece of collateral like this. I think it would do great on social media. And it's less of a mouthful to say. I think that could really appeal to people and be a little bit more recognizable and attractive, especially from marketing standpoint. And so beyond that, I think having a postcard, maybe a short note, depending on the mailing information that the town provides to me, we could even do a mail merge and have a personalized note. That might be a little bit too much work for a postcard, but it's an option. And I think having some sort of personalization could also increase the likelihood that people fill out the survey. So turning it back to you all, questions?
my only other question is, I know in the past we've had feedback that, not everyone in the valley has reliable internet access. And I know you talked about printed survey options. I wonder, we're also talking about various outreach options. We may want to supply some printed materials to some, and maybe even so to some targeted, like if we're working with the food bank, it might make sense for folks who may have a harder time accessing the internet reliably to focus on, trying to make it easier for them to do that.
Right. I spoke to Sam about that, and I think he had printed surveys and administered them at the food shelf the last iteration. And I think he found that it was really hard getting those surveys back. So maybe trying to figure out some way to convince people to bring us the survey back, or
Town offices?
offer at town offices, or just maybe I can't do a collection box, but something to make it really easy and lower that barrier for people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like this. Great.
Good, thank you.
In Brooklyn, how you doing? Parking in's good for real.
You're trying to find that right.
Great, well, that's all I have.
That's good, yeah.
That's great. Well, our next item of business is our member roundtable, which is our agenda item where we all just go around and talk a little bit about what's going on in our various sending entities. Eric, do you want to start off, given that you're right next to him?
Sure. Winding down in winter. Traffic is really slumped off, which is not shocking. I think a lot of the business people are pretty happy to take a little bit of a break, which is good. But just want to finish up the ski season strong. Have a lot of plans for the summer. We're going to be kicking off working with all of the town Green Up Day committees to do the Green Valley Rally this year. For the 5th year in a row that we're doing that, which is really nice. There's a lot going on with that, and that's been a growing thing each year. Been very involved with the Mad River Path and the riders and helping them with their merger. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that they're really asking the business community to get involved and understand what they're doing and be behind it, which is great. And yeah, I mean, we're just kind of keep doing what we're doing. Kind of promote this place and get ready for the summer and expecting a lot more visitation at the Welcome Center this summer. See how things go there.
I have a question about that, actually.
Yeah.
With the local folks sort of doing more business these days, has that increased foot traffic into?
No, no, yeah, the winter's just been straight up disappointing from that perspective. There's just, they're only open Fridays, Saturdays. They open at 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's a temporary thing. He's doing that. He still really wants to rent at least the restaurant out. Savitri might do it, but I kind of doubt it.
Okay.
So he still has hope of renting it out, and not necessarily as a bar. I mean, there's other ideas for it. I'm not holding my breath anymore. I was trying to figure that out. But what I'm seeing is it's happening organically, and when the bike shops open, and I think there's more activity going on, but we're seeing people using the trails, which is just just that there's people parking up there, which is great. So.
Dave.
Go. Just a couple things. The upcoming one is we found our water leak. So that's great. 3 months.
You have paper towels or something?
There's an immense amount of water, so it was very confusing that we couldn't find it. Anyway, it's right at like just north of the VG outside the wine shop. And so they will be
Outside the wine shop?
Yeah. I guess it's going underground to the river somehow, because it's not, can't see any of it. But we're going to be repairing it on March 24th, on Tuesday. So we are reaching out, or the Water Commission is reaching out to all users, and don't anticipate much disruption, but there's a chance there could be a shut off and then a boil water notice. So we are reaching out to everybody. As I mentioned, we're in the middle of designing the town garage. I think we awarded, contingent on a few questions, a paving bid for Jocelyn Hill Road and North Road, so that'll be happening this summer.
What's the site for the town garage?
What's that?
What's the site?
Same site. Yeah, which will be very helpful in not having any site work that needs to be done or road construction. And I just have the. Oh, and then on the local option tax stuff, there was an update in the VLCT legislative summary this week that, I don't know if you saw this, that VLCT has been advocating for a long time to up the percentage that towns get back, because right now the pilot fund is twice, they get, I think, twice as much money as they do, so it's just been growing. And now with 13 more towns coming in, the pilot fund is what reimburses towns for their state-owned property that don't pay property tax. So it's like
Payment in lieu of tax.
thank you for the acronym, sorry.
No problem.
Anyway, and the state did up the percentage the towns get back, but now there's bills pending in both the House and Senate to use some of that money for municipal road funding, which will be very helpful and that's for everybody, not just for towns that have a lot. So hopefully some of the answers we were getting in the last couple of years about town highway assistance might improve if that passes, but people don't have that. That's it for me.
We have about 6 weeks of the season left. We've got one more week at Mount Ellen. This weekend is Pride weekend, and then April 6th will be pond skimming in our big celebration weekend. We have a concert in the courtyard. We have submitted on the Northridge chair to Act 250 and are going to the Facein Planning Commission April 6th to get that town permit. That will be for spring 27 construction, so it's not going to be next year. We have hired an architect for the rebuild at the golf course, a new clubhouse building, Black River design out of Montpelier, and Granier Engineering as our civil. We have the Act 250 on the temporary building, which will start. We're just doing some test pits now. We're waiting for our ready to end in the town of Warren to start in earnest on that, but hopefully we'll have our temporary building up by July 4th. In the interim, we'll do the same thing we did last fall, where we'll have a food cart, not a cart, but a trailer, food trailer, and then we're have Connex for the retail shop until we get to July 4th. The plan for the new building is hopefully about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, and then have a year-round function space. Where we're really short is having, we do get requests for weddings and groups in the winter, but it's a pretty big hall to flip gatehouse for a wedding on a Saturday when we have 4,000 to 10,000 people using the cafeteria. So, that would really help us out. It all depends on how much insurance. The reason it's taken so long is that we actually had 20 insurance companies that are on the claim to the golf course layered. So everything's by committee, and then they're fighting on who wants to pay for what. But the good news is they are going to pay, and they are going to pay, what I think is a pretty decent number for it. And that should all be settled next month. Other than that, so I'm going to talk about the fourth. Historically, we've used North Star Fireworks for all our firework presentations. This year, they were bought by a company out of Rhode Island. Our price is going from roughly $11,000, of which we would pay $7,000 and then we'd do $5,000 of trade to North Star. So it's going from 11 grand to 20 grand this year, all out of pocket. So we are looking for sponsors. We're looking for community support, to make up the balance. Hopefully, because it's not something that we didn't budget $20,000 for an event, which turns out to be a community event, and a valley-wide event. And typically it's how would you say, a town function. It might be the city of New York, it might be the Macy's fireworks, but the city of New York's doing it in sponsorship, or Ridgewood, New Jersey, or wherever you have fireworks. So, it might be too late within the budgets of the towns this year, but certainly looking for any ideas people have, whether it's businesses or any town funding that we could slip in.
Jim, if you want to work with players, if you want me to work with players, something to put together a solicitation to go out to the business, I'll send out something to.
And we're certainly willing to put everyone's name on everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to help. So let me, you can reach out to me or have Blaine do it, or JJ, whatever.
Sure. I think that's about it. GMX, everyone's, the lift at Mount Ellen went down. It's the part is coming from, I believe, Finland. And it's very hard to get them to commit to when they're actually putting it on a plane. We've all volunteered to go over and get it ourselves, but unfortunately, there's something called customs, and it weighs about 300 pounds. So we're hoping to get that running by next week, and if we don't, then it will be running probably the next week, but which does us no good. But that's unfortunate for us. I think that's about it I have from the mountain.
Thanks.
I just have one quick question, and
Yep.
it might be too early to say, but do we have any information on mountain biking this summer?
We're not gonna have listserv mountain biking this summer. We need to replace the hull rope on Bravo. And that's ordered, and as soon as that comes in, and we're fighting with the wedding people over when we're gonna do that.
Fair enough.
Because it'll be a couple weeks shutdown to have to take all the chairs off, splice it.
And I've talked to the marketing people, and they're really putting a focus on the valley and the cross-country trails and.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think the
fine.
future of mountain biking, at Sugar Bush is unless someone comes up with a wonderful idea on how to increase, you're gonna train at Sugar Bush, we're gonna be pushing people towards the valley and Mad Bush Falls. And we did go to a DEC with a plan to put mountain biking at on the gatehouse pod, but it was pretty much shut down by them. So if we can't put it over there, then we can't go anywhere.
Sure.
Thank you.
Over here?
Yeah.
First item is internal to this organization. So Dan went down to Northfield Savings Bank and had his name removed from all of the accounts, which prompted a call to me to say, can you get everybody else in to sign? So the forms are all made out. I went to sign mine today. So Jonathan and David, you can stop Northfield Savings and just tell them member of a Valley Planning District, and
All right.
the forms are all ready for you to sign.
Thought I'd signed last year, but I might need to sign again.
Yes, because Dan left, now it's. They have to do the whole-
Okay.
What's the name of the form?
I think you can just tell them that you're there to sign for the Matter Valley Planning District.
Yeah.
But you probably can't do it yet.
As an authorized signature for the.
Yeah.
for the-
I think we have to wait.
You'll have to do it. You'll have to do it in April. I can go back and do it now as Spice, and then I'll just do it again and.
Yeah. Yeah,
Chair, assuming that.
and just make sure you bring your driver's license with you because they take a copy of that.
Yeah.
So that's the internal thing. A couple of other things going on. David, I know you and I talked about the Waitsfield lot and the impact it's going to have on
Yep.
the residents in Facein who live in the 05673 zip code. So what we're going to try to do as a select board is to put together some kind of a little information package
Yeah.
for them, and wondering who we may contact from your LOT committee or you and I, or.
Yeah, okay, you can start with me and, well, what are we gonna do and how many other people do I need to involve?
So I think it's gonna be the business community letting them know, as you and I talked,
Yep.
that they go to the tax department, they
Yep.
can fill out a form that exempts them from collecting the tax.
Yep, and we're gonna try to work proactively with the tax department to make sure they don't make the same mistake they've made in other places, which
Yep.
is sending it out to everybody in the zip code.
Yeah, so that's the kind of information we'd like to pass it to them. And then also the residential people who do online purchasing, what the potential impact is on them and how they could get reimbursed. And I know you've done all the research on that stuff, so maybe you and I can
Yeah,
get together and get that information.
definitely. And from my perspective, we're kind of waiting. We're not bugging them too much, bugging them a little bit, but once we hear we're good to go, then we'll really say, okay, here are things that we need to work out.
Okay,
We haven't heard that it's starting at a date certain yet, so.
okay. And in the meantime, we're gonna pursue the situation with the tax department. Dan Raddick had given me Andrew Stein's name as a contact there, just to find out if we can get some basic information that they've been not giving us about what the taxable, what the taxes have been that were collected, and we don't have enough businesses in town that meet their threshold to get that information, so we're gonna try to get that. And then also talk to them about, we don't have the zip code, so even if we implement an LOC, we have to get around that 05660, 05673, where the money would go to, and get that fixed with maybe a 9-digit zip code as we had talked about or something
Yeah, I
like that.
think the tax department knows more about, or I'm sure they know more about this than we know
Yeah,
right now, because there's at least 3 or 4 other situations that this is happening in around the state. where
Yeah.
There are split zip codes and things like that. So I'll be happy to help you try and get answers and.
okay, yeah, I'll get back to you on that one.
Sure.
And Jim, we had a situation just recently came up, the end of Mount Ellen Road, that accident that took place a couple of weeks ago, where somebody's coming down German Flats, car coming down Mount Ellen Road, snap broadside of them.
Mhm.
Well, the people who live
I saw
right across the Mount Ellen Road contacted us and want to know what we can do. She claims that there's 19 times this winter
Yeah, I
that
saw
that
that.
guardrail
You
has
sent us
been
an
hit.
email.
So I'm wondering, is there somebody, so what we would like to do, we're gonna talk about it at our next select board meeting, is to maybe get somebody from Sugar Bush, ourselves, and talk about what traffic calming things we may be able to do on that road. And so I don't know who you would think.
That would be me.
Okay,
I know that we have that, there is an advanced sign that says stop sign ahead 100 feet. Maybe there's some type of other
Yeah.
signage on your portion of the road.
Danger, caution. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know why people don't stop.
And they
Not all.
actually speed up. You know, according to the people who live across the road, I mean, so maybe I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
We
Maybe we'll get a good deal on a used speed bump in Warren.
I was gonna say, we had great luck with a speed bump.
And then they could fly over the
Yeah.
guardrail.
I think they end up going over the guardrail into the house.
And while I don't have any direct experience with vehicular speed influence, like I'm more on the pedestrian side, I'm happy to participate because I'm wondering about sort of state resources. Like if I can understand the situation better, I might be able to reach out to
Well,
some
maybe we'll
folks.
get you in the loop then
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So if you want to,
All right.
I'm
I
happy.
mean, they have that pavement scarring that like they have on the side of the highways that, you know, if you're going too fast, it really wakes you up.
Right.
Mm.
Does the same thing happen at the access road? Not really. right?
No,
No, and I
Just
think,
a little flatter coming down or?
no.
well, and the fact that it ends right on German Flats Road and
There's a
then
sign right in front of you that goes
slide
left.
straight across
Right.
and into the guardrail.
Right.
And about 8 or 9 years ago, we put that guardrail up at the request of the folks that own the home because those vehicles were right in their dooryard. I mean, literally up by the front porch.
It's not like they're not, they're just not stopping. It's not like they
Yeah.
slide through the stop sign. They just.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we
But
can
it's
put
not
our
only-
heads together,
sometimes
Josh,
it's at
to
night and
participate on that,
morning.
and see what we can do.
Yeah, let me know. I'd be
Okay.
happy to. I'll
Um,
do some research ahead of time.
The only other two things I wanted to mention was on German Flats Road, where that truck fire took place, not far from the elementary school. We're getting reimbursed for that, and they've selected Pike Industries to do the repair work on German Flats. I don't have a date on that yet, but as soon as we do, we'll get that out to everybody so they know. I'm sure there'll be some traffic disruption, but I don't know to what extent at this point. And then finally, we had one house in the 2024 flood on North Facein Road that they had to abandon. FEMA is finally coming in starting next week to dismantle the house and take that out. So there may be a little disruption on the North Facein Road there while that's happening. But unfortunately, we had people interested in purchasing the place and removing it, and that wasn't within FEMA's realm of authorization.
Is it already been purchased by you or it's going to be?
Yeah, so we facilitated
Or transferred.
the sale of the property for the person who lived there. So, and they were very happy with the settlement. So that part went well. Now the town has to maintain that little section once the house is removed, which could be an issue too, because there's a steep bank there and it keeps eroding more and more with every storm, but we'll deal with that.
We have one, Waitsfield has one as well.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
already took.
Yeah.
I don't know what the lingo is, but.
So I think that's it. That's our report.
Awesome.
Thanks, John. Jim.
Chuck, are you in the Moore Town zip code?
Yes.
Can I send some car parts to your house? Engine search.
Okay, so let's see, from the town of Warren, you already brought up the planning commission recommended exploring Habitat for Humanity as a partner for housing on the old garage site. We're still crafting the kind of the terms and conditions of that partnership, and that we still think that, we don't want to put 2 duplexes in there. From a planning commission point of view, we want it much denser than that, and but not as dense as a down street apartment building. So we're trying to figure out how we partner privately as well as with Habitat for Humanity. So there's still I want to say that sauce is still being made. However, Habitat would be a great partner to be part of that kind of, effort. So we're excited about working with them. The other big thing that we're working on, we're just going to start kicking off our town plan update. Kind of the news that I heard at the select board meeting the other night was our response to the short-term rental regulation was not great as far as people registering their rental units. So we're going to have to work our way through that. And then the only other thing that I kind of have on my list that I'm continuing to kind of solicit opinions or ideas about is kind of the volunteer age out that we're experiencing in the valley. Is that
The volunteer what?
age out? I mean, our horses, right? All that horsepower we've had for a long time is starting to age out, right? So there's some real giants who stand on their shoulders that help this community. They're not going to be available in, foreseeable future, 5 to 7 years. And how are we going to train the next generation? So we really have to start. I don't know how we do it, but that's going to be a big problem because we get a lot of work, resources, knowledge, tribal knowledge, the whole smash is not going to be available. And we're not replacing it very well at this point, right? So we really, I think as a planning district, we got to start thinking about that and how can we help? So that's just my personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The point's well taken. I understand. I think a lot of us are on commissions and boards that are full of vacancies at the moment. So
Yeah,
that is definitely in my mind as well.
Yeah. We're losing horsepower.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's something that's worth continuing to talk about at these meetings. And
Okay, good.
if people have good ideas, I'd love to share them. So
I mean, I think as we've talked about, like what percent of people who live here know MRVPD, know what some of these different commissions are.
Yeah.
At the town level, know what the planning commission does versus the DRB versus, what's the select board? Like, I think there's more people than we think who are like, just don't really sure about it. And to keep educating people what the cemetery people do and, you need an animal control officer, like, all that stuff is needed and yeah, we raised the stipend if anyone's interested.
And I do want to,
To $150.
and I think that is municipal and non-municipal.
Yeah.
Right. And there was a very successful community volunteer fair this past fall in partnership with the BAP, which is really focused on engaging people in their own community in real time. And, just hearing that made me realize that I don't think that there was any, there were 40, 50 different organizations at that event. At least, maybe 60. I
It
mean,
was a summer, there are more.
Oh, yeah.
but I can't think of a single municipal board or municipal sort of like volunteer piece there. And part of the idea with that was recognizing how much of our community is run through volunteerism, recognizing we have really great organizations that are doing really important work, and that there are a lot of people who are in this community and aren't aware. And I think, and that was a really positive event with an intention for it to continue going forward. And it had, but I can't help but think how that could leverage the municipal side of the equation.
yeah.
So I attended that and I was there as for the Warren Historical Society and I got 0 new members.
You did.
So it was a great event. I don't know what the results ended up for helping these organizations. Maybe
Yeah,
other
there
people
was-
saw better.
A lot of the organizations did really, really well with it. Like Mervis, I know we picked up 5 or 6 people.
Oh, then you
That-
guys
which
did
is
great. You guys did.
We picked up, we added to our Stewart MRV list. I mean, it was good.
So some
Yeah,
people did well,
absolutely.
some people didn't.
And it was
You guys had
really cool
t-shirts,
because it really got the communication going among the different volunteer organizations.
Yeah,
Too.
no, that
I think there was a lot of value with that.
Yeah. It was
And
a
I
great
think
event.
that one of the other things too is to think about, like, I think the well-being survey is like, they talk so much about community and it's like, you can't have that unless the community's taken care of and fed and watered and all that things. And I wonder if you've leveraged that and, to try to say like, hey, we've got this great community here, but, we've got to take care of it.
So
And this is what it takes.
One thing that occurs to me about specifically about historical societies, I know that's an area.
Oh, that's a.
No, but it's an area that is historically challenging to get younger people interested in. The Rural Resource Commission, part of their ambit is to focus on historical preservation and education. And I think that's potentially a good use of their time, is to try to figure out how to get some engagement, education opportunities and outreach.
Yeah, I'd rather have Ellen working on our buildings than I would.
Are you the youngest member, right, 40 years?
Thank you, yes.
I took my son when he was like 10 years old. I took him to the Facein Historical Society meeting, and I was the youngest one there by 40 years. And they were looking at him like, "Oh my God, there's a child here."
Put him on a shelf.
And he's exchanging recipes with the ladies.
We just, it took a while, but we just rebooted ours. We made an appeal, not this last town meeting, but the town meeting before. And Jared Cadwell stepped up, and his wife Kathy and a bunch of other people now. So there's probably like 15 people on the Historical Society or committee now, and many of them younger people. So I don't know if we just lucked out, we made the appeal at the right time, but we've got it rebooted. So it can happen,
Yeah, we're really interested in Sugarbush joining because of, it's time to really document your impact on the community from the 50s until currently. And so that's a super important time history for us now. Previously, these societies focused on the early 1900s and the late 1800s, and where our community members could kind of remember back to grandma and grandfather. And now we're at that point where we've got to make sure we capture kind of the 50s through the 2000s. And Sugarbush will be a big part of that, in my mind.
When would be perfect?
I know we may be off topic here.
Absolutely. It really,
No, I'll talk to him about
that would, we would.
because he has it all documented and has everything
That would be,
at his fingertips.
Yeah.
okay, so that was,
Free time.
I got us,
One more thing on
Raffle.
the Historical Society. Do you know Kathy Mahuron?
yes.
Because she's on the Waitsfield Society, and
Yeah.
she wrote a couple of books on Taking Back
Yes,
series of
yeah,
books.
yeah, no,
And a lot of that had to do with Sugarbush and the history of Mad River Glen and Sugarbush and that kind of thing. So there's some of those documents around already that you could have access to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the mechanics of it. When did we put this lift in, and who was the design engineer for it and things like that? Those are the kind of details that, I think really if we can somehow memorialize them, it would be really kind of cool.
Mhm.
Well, it could be a CLG project or a National Register project if there was a particular piece. I mean, the definition for historic in that case is 50 years or older.
Castle Rock would be a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Castle Rock Lift and Castle Rock section of Sugarbush should be a historic spot on that mountain. in my
Yeah,
mind.
and it does not on its own provide any limitations, but to be eligible to be listed, it has to be 50 years old or older and retain the historic qualities. Yeah.
It's a good
I
conversation.
mean, I think Castle Rock would be perfect for
That's,
that.
I think that'd be a great thing to sort of talk to the Rural
Yeah.
Resource Commission about, because
Ellen lost her phone on Rumble.
yeah, it's only a couple weeks. All right, well, thank you. The only remaining item here is just a reminder that our next meeting will be on the 16th of April. We will be having our, fingers crossed, we should be having our bookkeeping update at that point with Ed.
And it'll be our organizational meeting.
And yes, that will be our organizational meeting. As a preview for that, we will need to elect new officers, as our outgoing chair, Dan Raddick, is no longer on the committee. So yeah, that'll be our opportunity to elect new officers. Great. Please do show up for quorum so that we can get that done. Very hard for us to take new business if we don't have a quorum. So all right. With that, I guess someone could make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
You all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
I think I picked that up.
Okay.